Hey, all you rad dads out there.
Let's just kind of start. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Joel. I'm from the band The Discarded. It's, guess, a garage punk rock inspired rock and roll band with myself and two of my sons, Jared and Caden.
Two of your sons. So how long have you been going with this
We
band?
started February 2016. We got together. Well, we started when they were born, but we started the band at that particular time as sort of an outlet. They were 13 and 16 at the time, and we've been at it since then. 4 years, I guess, or coming up on 5 years next year in February. We put out three albums and an EP, and we just recorded another one that we finished over this pandemic. Kind of a really weird project that we did, kind of a concept album where we're pretending to be another band, and yeah, just been writing away and playing away. And the latest that we did was, since we can't play shows, we went into a studio and we recorded three live sets of us playing and filmed it.
Okay, so what can you kind of talk about that? So that's
Yeah.
the live pandemic sessions.
Yeah. So since we're a rock and roll band, it doesn't, there's a lot of people that are streaming and doing stuff, but it doesn't really lend itself to a loud rock and roll band or a punk band, etc. That we are. And we did a few, but it's like one thing on a phone or like a Zoom like this, right? So it sounds like. So we just wanted to maybe have something that was a little more sounded like us, or could sound like us playing live. So we went to a place in Fort Erie, actually, that had a studio, so they could mic it all up, and they had three or four cameras, and we did three sets. And the idea was, we ran first one, we did our first and songs from our first and second album. The one that we're releasing next Friday, December 11th, we did songs from we released last year an EP and an album in November when I last chatted with you. So we did songs from that. And then the last one, we did brand new songs and songs from this upcoming release of stuff that we recorded. So unrecorded stuff, I guess. And the idea basically is that at the end of it, we want to take it and kind of, it's like three sets. I think it's about 37 songs or 27 songs, 37 songs. We're going to do 15 songs into a live album from that.
Okay, that's cool. What is that? So sorry, man.
Okay, just
So go back to you mentioned something about doing a different band. What was that about?
well, yeah, so when we went to do this latest album, we decided to do, because people don't listen to albums and all this sort of stuff. We decided to make a concept album. So we pretended to be an entirely different band. It's the Discarded as, and we just said we could kind of let go of being whatever and whatever. So it's this arc of this story of this fictional band called The Get Goes.
Okay. So
And
is this something you did just recently, or is this?
well, we started it October of last year, and we just didn't finish it till last month. The other
Oh,
thing is
right on.
all the other stuff that we've done is we'd go into a studio as The Discarded. We do our whole album like 3 days, right? Like just play live off the floor, maybe, and do the vocals afterwards, and do a couple overdubs of guitars and maybe a keyboard on the last album, like just to fill stuff out. So real gritty 60s keyboard. This one we have 12 songs. It tells this arc of a story, and in between there's these little vignettes with talking parts, and Jarrett wrote like other music that doesn't sound like us at all. So it's about, the band's like a heavy garage rock band, punk band like us at the beginning, but the singer guy he gets into his head from the record company, and he wants to go off and be this teeny bopper thing. He wants the band to mellow out and have really, like sappy music, and the rest of the band's going, screw this, we don't want that, and they kind of go their separate ways. So it's kind of like the rise and fall of this fictional band called The Get Goes, and it tells us, it's almost like a radio play, or we're thinking, we did a cartoon for the cover, and we're gonna like probably do it like an animated film, as opposed to even like releasing it as like us and our faces and that.
Oh, that's fun. I like that. And
Yeah.
so is that so? How did that kind of come about? Is that something that I guess the question I'm trying to ask really is like how who writes the songs? So you're here because we're on the Rad Dad show. You're a dad. You have a band with your
Yeah.
two kids. Is that is it a collective kind of thing? Is this
Oh
idea
yeah, yeah.
started?
Uh,
How's that
at the
different?
beginning, sure, I wrote most of the songs in the beginning because I was like, here's some simple songs for you guys to play, learn how to play your instruments. They've been playing for 6 months when we recorded the first album. They got really good. Like, actually, they've, surpassed me. They took to it. Jarrett's an amazing bass player. He took piano theory and bass and that. And he's like coming to me and challenging me, Dad, you got to do this. And it goes here. So we write really collectively now. Sure, I come up with, say, the vast majority of the words and the songs. But even now, like Caden, we'll go down and we'll jam. He'll do a drum beat. We did it yesterday. And we write a song together down in the basement. And Jarrett, same thing. And then Jarrett will take it and he likes to go away and write these really intricate melodic bass parts that are different than just playing the root notes in that. So it's really like at the beginning, yeah, me, but in the last album, 2 albums, it's been like all of us kind of together. And this next things, all the other songs you've written were all like just us jamming in the basement over a riff, and then me kind of, okay, here's the structure. And so we work very much together. And that's the cool thing for us is that you start to you're their dad, but you start to deal with them more as a peer and share that music thing that you do, that you did with, say, other friends that you had, and just that euphoria or that amazing connection that you can get through playing together as a band, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I
so
had
this
that
project,
experience.
getting back, it was very much, yeah, we just, Jarrett writes all the music that's I wrote the majority of songs of the songs that are the song part of the songs that we did kind of together, and everyone added their part. I said to him, you're going to do all the middle parts. I'm not even going to be there. You go home, take your keyboard stuff, right? And, work out what you want. So he had like really sort of not like sounding like us at all. Like there's a sort of jazzy stuff and keyboard stuff and just atmospheric stuff because they're ambient music that's under some of the little 1 minute talking bits that go in between songs.
It's,
We even brought in a backup singer and he does a lot of like different stuff on there. And we put horns on some songs and stuff. Like we got, like it goes a whole different gambit of stuff than we normally sort of do.
neat. How like so? Whose idea was for the get go? Was that concept album? Like I'm a huge fan of I like albums, like
Yeah.
now
Well,
that
this,
we tend to see, and I think most kind of punk people do, or rock and roll, like love the album piece. I see with I'm a school teacher. I see, and even I have a son who just turned 9, and see that they consume music a lot differently, right? It's like kind of
yeah.
like the SoundCloud kind of bits. It's just it's not really. It's more singles and things like
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
I love the idea of like a concept album, with the art, with the I kind of always relate it to like Dead Kennedys when if
Yeah. Yeah.
had,
Yeah.
they always
Yeah.
had like the collage art for each song.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was
yeah.
just like a
Yeah.
whole concept to me, and it was
Yeah.
yeah, I really love that
We,
idea. Like whose
we
idea was that?
yeah, we just didn't want to be, well, me, because I kind of have a theater background, but like
Oh,
all three of us were kind of on board with it. Because even when I said like, well, I don't think people are going to like this, right? And they were like, screw it if they don't like, let's just do it, right? Like it was kind of how they were, right? They're like, I'm like, well, should we just release one album of just the singles? They're like, no, put on this. If they want to get into it, they can. If they don't want to. Like I'm second guessing it more than they are, right? Because some people are going to go concept album. What are you guys thinking? But we were just like, no, we're doing it, and and one of the things they're like, even Jarrett's like, you should just release the thing. No gaps where you can take it and do different songs. You just got to listen to the whole thing or not if you want, right? And I'll go, well, I'll let them pick individual songs if they like an individual song, but like, it does work. You can pick individual songs and like a song that's on it. But we do have actually a version of it that, because it flows right together, there's no gaps in between songs. Like one song kind of goes into another, goes into the talking part, kind of overlaps each other, like a movie soundtrack almost, right? So that's the idea of it in that. So yeah, that was I came up with the overall arc. I was just looking back on it. I wrote it. I finished writing it. It's funny. I wrote like 4 or 5 of the songs over my Christmas break, not last Christmas, but the Christmas before. And then we've been working on it since then and kind of fine tuning it, like what the words were in between and the script, etc. And Jared doing his parts. And then we practiced the main songs for like 6 months before we went into the studio and actually laid down the main songs, and then took another up until March to record the regular song part of it. And then we were going to go in and do the vignette parts, and the pandemic happened. So we bought a recording unit, did those at home, and sent the tracks to the guy to mix at home. Mix It Hit Studio for us, and I even did like the voiceovers and the music. We did it all here in our house in the basement on this new recording unit that we had.
Nice. So what does that look like? Like, what's the conversation? I'm assuming both your boys live with you still?
But one just moved down. He's got a girlfriend. He's been living with her for a couple of years. He's 21 now,
Right.
and just to give you the idea of this guy. He finished school. He goes, okay, I'm going to go to university, but I'm going to take a couple of years off. And he worked, just doing some online claims adjusting for some stuff. Worked for 2 years, and then he goes, Dad, I'm going to move. I'm going to move in with my girlfriend, and they got an apartment. And he goes, and then like just this year, he goes, you know something? I want to live in a big city. I could rent, or I could buy a house. I've saved enough money. I'm like, what? You saved enough money on a minimum wage job by 21 years? Yeah. And you go, and I think it's probably better that I buy a place than, rent a place. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll co-sign. Go buy a place, right? It was like, that's the sort of guy. He's like a 40-year-old, 20-year-old, right? Like he's an old soul. That's the way the guy to describe him. Then. So it's sort of wonderful. So he hasn't been living with me for about a year and a bit now because he lives with his girlfriend. Sort of thing.
Oh, okay. Well, what's it look like in terms of like, do you guys do band practice once a week, twice? Like, what is that?
Well, we used to do it like right up until October. We used to do it about once a week, yeah. And if we've got a project coming up, we'll do it a bit more often. Now we're kind of doing the like yesterday, no, the day before, Cade and I went down. We recorded, got an idea, recorded a song. I overdubbed it on that unit, and then I'll send it to Jarrett, and he'll write his bass parts. We're more, because of just what's going on, we're more of a studio band now, right? Because we can't come out and play. So this is probably a new thing for us at this point, right? So we'll see what the world is like when we come out of this, but I'm just saying, we did a tour this time last year. We did 12 shows in probably 6 weeks, maybe even more, I think, if I look at maybe 13 or 14. Half the venues are closed that we played. And half of those venues that closed were some of the best ones. They had like a great stage, great sound, great lights, but, like Barrie, Toronto, Hamilton, I could keep going on, London, like all the Southern Ontario, all these clubs that were seminal clubs that had been open for 30, 40 years, like Call the Office had, Nirvana and Arcade Fire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, played this place and it's gone, and This Ain't Hollywood in Hamilton, seminal place. We opened for Teenage Head there last year, right? And it's like, it's gone, right? And it's just, they were just amazing places. That was the level of band that we're at. If you play a place that's 100, 200 people, this is where you play, and you want to play on a place that has a great PA and a great atmosphere and a storied history of people who come down and watch bands there, and they're going away right now. So it's really kind of a sad thing that's going on at this point. So we'll see where things stand, but I think it's going to be really hard hit our bands at our particular level, like these big bands that can get into the, say, the El Macombo or say the Horseshoe, these either a legacy act or a larger band that tours, and they're set up for live streaming and concerts at a high level, like we kind of did with this pandemic sessions. A band at our level, we're going to have to probably organize that ourselves, and because they're not saying, hey, come on down to the Horseshoe that holds 500 people. Who are you? We don't put on garage punk bands unless you're like got some of a large following at this particular point.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. We kind of see that here. Places closing. That's one of the things I miss the most. Like that was my social thing. Going to shows. I would go see.
Exactly.
At least once a week, almost. That's gone. It's kind of taken away.
I know.
I don't see my friends because of it. It's like, whoa.
The question is, where's it going to be when it comes back? So I guess we're re-examining. Like, when it happens, we're going to probably want to do a release. Probably, we're putting out these pandemic sessions to say, look, we play live. Here we are. Come and watch us for free. We don't really, come and see what we do. And then from that, we'll put on a live album. And then we've got this other album, like I said, that I talked about, that we want to put out in probably the fall, maybe even early next year if we put out this live album, and probably play a show. But I guess the idea might be that we'll play a larger show and fewer as opposed to a whole bunch, because there isn't a whole bunch of places to go play right at the moment. And I'm sure there's going to be a bit of a lineup of people going, hey, pick us first. We want to play here when it gets back open again. That's just going to be so we'll do a larger show, and maybe with this particular thing, we'll put it on with the extra musicians and that, and put it on, like play the whole hour thing through and have the little recorded bits in between us playing the songs and that. So I think that's probably what we'll do. And then that particular point, but we'll practice that way and come together for that sort of thing. We're going
Yeah,
to our Beatles studio years.
it'll be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah.
It's going to maybe talk a little bit about the parenting stuff. Any new parenting challenges because of this pandemic, do you think?
Well, of course, because so that our particularly when it first kind of went, so that our age is kind of going a bit more seriously, like, this is a bad thing. We need to do this. We live in Orangeville, which it wasn't an epicenter for what was going on. So it was hard to impress upon them that, hey, this is what's going on, right? Especially a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old going, what? I got to stay in and not see all my friends. What's that about? That's bogus. We're not sick. And even if we do, we'll get over it. You'll die. I'm just kidding. But, unfortunately, that is some of the mentality that goes on. My guys are good. The funny thing was what you kind of talked about. We had just done, like I said, those 14 shows. We finished up the recording. We were recording while we were doing those 14 shows. We were pretty burned out playing and recording and that. We're like, let's just finish up this recording and we're not going to go out and play. So it kind of coincided at the same time for us that, hey, we were going to do that anyway. So outside of that, we miss going to a restaurant, that sort of thing. We have a small bubble of people, like, it's our family. That's who we hang out with. Even when things got, say in the summertime, they went, okay, we're opening up a bit more. We were more like, well, does that mean it's mandatory that I go out and hang out with a bunch of people? No, not really. So, we'll wear our masks. We'll go out. I go to the grocery store, go to work and do my work. And then we have sort of protocols there that we need to do to sort of do that. But, overall, we have a small bubble of people that, we're going out to go swimming. And, okay, at a certain point, it's like, yeah, you hang out with your girlfriend. That's fine. That's our bubble. Her family isn't out socializing with a million people, right? So, and I hang out with my family. So that's pretty well what we do, sort of thing. The lady who sang backup on this recording, she was within our bubble, but she lives by herself. So you got to take those risks, those factors, and how they approach it. And same with our children. And that's what we do. The younger two are back to school. And that's but there's all the stuff there, but they're pretty good about, I wear my mask, I do this is what we do. We sanitize our hands, that sort of thing, right? We're not going to large maskless events with people all packed in. We're just not doing that. That one guy opted not to play hockey this year because it was kind of bogus for him anyway, because it was just 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 intramural, right? And he'd been playing, select hockey and going around and playing all the things. They go, okay, take a year off, and then we'll get back to it when the world gets a bit more normal. So yeah, from a parenting standpoint, we've adapted, and it hasn't, I'm not gonna say it hasn't impacted us, but it hasn't impacted us to the extent. I think if we were an individual living by myself in a house, I could see, or an apartment or in a basement, it would mentally it'd be a lot more challenging than what we're a family of 4 kids and a dad and that sort of thing, where you do have that interaction.
Yeah, so that kind of provides you with that support, right? That social.
Yeah, and we get along, so we play games, and we, even the other night I was surprised. They were just like, "Hey, let's play a game of this," and they brought out the board game. I'm like, "Oh, I'm not forcing it." It's time to go get the tree. Well, some, might be into it, some may not, but ultimately everyone goes, "Yeah, let's do that." We decorate. Oh, okay, we'll go get some gingerbread house, and whoever wants to do that makes the gingerbread house, sort of thing, right?
Has it brought you closer as a family, you think?
We were always pretty close to begin with. So has it brought us closer? I wouldn't say closer. It just hasn't driven us apart. So we've always been pretty good. We've always had a pretty strong love among us there. And, so it's, again, it's besides the weirdness, it's kind of going outside the, say, our 4 walls of our home and our family, and understanding that when we go into the world, our interaction is pretty similar to what it has been. They grow older and they're changing as children and maturity. Like you have a 9-year-old, I have a 10-year-old who's like, going on 14 or 15 as far as her, and she's a little girl as far as like, oh, I'm fashionable. I want to dye my hair pink now, Daddy. I'm like, great, grab the dye, I'll dye your hair pink, right? We all went through that phase. What color? You want to go purple now? Let's do purple this weekend.
Do you still consider yourself a rad dad?
Well, you always, you could say, I guess, in the perspective, like, say, Caden, even the drummer, the 17-year-old, is now 18. He has a girlfriend now, so it's like, he comes in, he goes, your family's different than ours, right? So I get that more when, you see outside influence. We just think, I'm a dad, right? And I guess a lot of dads don't play in rock and roll bands, and a lot of dads don't make music and do what I do. So in that particular sense, I go, okay, maybe, yeah, I'm a rad dad in that sense, but it's kind of yeah, I don't know. You look at your kid, but they look at you and just, no, you're just the cringeworthy father or parental figure that everyone would probably look at. And, so, but, even though they go, you're not the same as the other dad's dad, compared to what you kind of do or do with us, or what we do with you, and our interaction is sort of odd. Like even Caden, the 18 years, like, yeah, we've got a relationship that most 18-year-olds don't have. And we talk very straight, all of us there. And that's what we get when you tend to see when they get a girlfriend, and then they kind of go, oh, you guys just talk about everything, right? Like around the table and that. Like, we don't dress stuff up. We just talk. And, oh, the concept's this. Okay, let's talk about that. This is what it means. Da 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 da. So yeah, okay, I'll say I'm a rad dad. It's a rad dad program. How's that? Is that what you want?
Yeah, I've listened to our interview a year ago, and I wanted to see what your answer to that question was, and I couldn't remember. And
I probably danced around it there too.
Yeah, you did. It's all good. You kind of touched on it. You talked about the cringe-worthy kind of piece there.
Yeah.
Do you ever do your boys in the band ever kind of say anything to you, like, oh, we're in a band with my dad? How do you think they are with their friends? Like, do they get
well, the funny thing is their friends, they don't really talk about their music and what they do. Like Jarrett and Caden went through it, and it would be like sort of like something, yeah, this guy's a kick-ass drummer, and he plays, like John Bonham now, if you wanted to, right? He'll put on John Bonham album and play the whole thing, right? It's just like, but he won't tell anyone he's, played shows and been out there. So unless they sort of discover it, well, Caden's pretty kick-ass drummer. Listen to this recording. It's like online sort of thing, right? Or on Spotify, etc. So they don't really talk about what they do much. As far as that whole cringe where it's sort of, like that's sort of the thing where we look at it. We all think we make good music. We all think we're a good band. Like, we try to transcend beyond the family band part of it there, right? Like, it's like either we make good music or we don't, right? So that, even Caden's like, we listened to something the other day and goes, because we're a pretty kick-ass band. They believe that we make good music, right? Like, they think that. And sure. And then the other part is, yeah, it's cringy. People, we appreciate that people probably go, oh yeah, well, a Partridge Family, family band, dad with his kids, I think a lot of the time is people usually hear that and think that, then they put it on and go, really, that's a dad and two kids? Because it's, you either judge it or you don't on what you hear, right? And we're not like going, oh well, the kids either know how to play or not play. Dad needs to bring it or not bring it at the end of the day, and the song needs to hang together, right? So yeah, we kind of see the balance of both of that, and I encourage them, like, Caden, go jam with your friends, go play music, go do other stuff at that. Jarrett, go do that, and we'll always be family and get together and do our music and that sort of thing. So we don't have to worry about that sort of thing, right? You go off and do something at a certain point. There's windows. I may have talked this last time. There's windows, and there's a window. We're hitting a 5-year window, which even with most bands, that's usually the window of most bands, right? Even less, 2-3 years in that. And the fact that, we're hitting a 5-year window, we've recorded 4 albums, and we have another album that we're ready to record as well. Probably we'll do that in August. Caden's going to go off to university. Jarrett's going to go off to university in Ottawa. So there's going to be that time where they're going to go off and do those things. We'll be 6 or 7 years. Can we get together and do projects? Will we still be father and sons? Yes. We're not at a point where we hate making music together, or we don't think we're making good music together. I think you'll see it take different forms, like I mentioned earlier in that. Right. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of it as far as a band and the dad point goes.
Cool. So let's just wrap up here, and let's kind of go back to so the live album. Is that something that, so you've done the recording, the live sessions, you've been throwing them on the YouTube and whatnot. Yeah. So you're gonna is it gonna be like kind of like the best of those and just throw? Yeah,
exactly. So we've got, like I said, the first one is the first 2 albums. Second one is the EP and the third album that released last year. Fourth one is new songs that we haven't recorded at all, and songs from this Get Go thing that we told you about. And then yes, we're going to take it. We've already, that's our project right now. So I just talked to the guy yesterday who he's going to remix and just kind of give it a nice sheen of like with the guy at the studio where recorded did it, but he's going to kind of like go, here it is a bit more beefy for the live album sort of sound. Same tracks. We're not changing the tracks or anything. He's just going to remix them in that and maybe balance out things we like a bit more. And we're going to release that as a 15 song sort of greatest hits of these 3 sessions. That's exactly what we're going to do. Probably see that in April.
Okay.
We're releasing the last one. We're releasing one in November, December, January, and then I'll release that one either March, April, as far as the live album goes.
And are you thinking of doing like a vinyl or anything like that, or is it more just?
I think this one will be a strictly stream one, just in the sense that we are going to probably weight it heavier to things that we haven't released before, like probably 50%, 60, 70% will be songs that you're not getting on. Hey, you want to hear the live version? Or you want to go get the studio version, right? Like, and the earlier albums in that we represent pretty close to what we do on the album and when we play live. We actually play live to reproduce what we're doing is what I'm saying. So but I just thought you're better. We'll just throw in some songs that you haven't heard this. Here's us rocking them live, sort of thing. So yeah, stream to begin with. I think and if people like that, then we could. I put everything else on vinyl, but I'll probably just this one will be a stream only sort of album.
What about the Get Goes one? Is that something you can do separate, or you kind of mix it?
Well, that one we actually want to make an animated film to go over top of it. Right. So that's where that project's going there. We want it to be, you're watching it is like a movie soundtrack, and that I'll send you a link to it. Okay. After this goes, I'll send you listen to it. That, and it fits that we want to actually, I've got a friends who work in animation and film and that. So we want to work, and the cover is cartoon characters of us. And actually there's another character called Johnny who gets the big head. And that's actually a representation of me at like 24.
Okay.
It's based on a picture there. Like that's who the artist used. They got me as the one guitar player looking like me now. And then the other one is me with curly hair and no beard when I'm younger, sort of thing, right? So that's that. And then we were going to want to represent that in sort of an animated short. There's like it's almost like they're being interviewed on the radio and stuff like that. So that'll be that project. And that actually takes a bit longer. So we're gonna we're not really worrying. We'll do this. We're doing, like I said, another recording, a straight up rock and roll album, like no concept, no nothing like that. Like 8 or 9 songs. We're going to record that and start doing that in August of next year. So, so hopefully we'll see where the animated part. It takes a little longer to do a project like that. I have a meeting over Christmas time with the lady who's that's what she does for a living, is manages making animated films and that, and her to kind of talk about, this is what this is. Just want to make sure you're not, start this and going down the wrong road. So I like to tap into people with expertise before I just blindly fall into it. But that, again, that'll be a project that could be over the entire sort of year. So later next year, you might see that, or probably even 2022.
Nice, cool. I like that. I love those sort of projects that it's like this creative kind of flow that you have. Like it's inspiring, and that's kind of why we're chatting with you. Okay, last question. Any words of wisdom out there for dads or parents dealing with this pandemic and how to get through it? Maybe
keep it cool. Spread the love. Like I kind of gave this whole analogy at one point. We came to Canada, or some people did, and your forefathers did. And if they came here a long time ago, they went sat up in a log cabin. And during the wintertime, they were completely cut off, right? They sat in this log cabin, whatever food they had grown, it was cabin fever, right? And you get put in this place and it snowed and they didn't see anyone and they didn't go out. No. We got to sit in these modern houses with the internet, et cetera, et cetera. And besides, okay, I don't get to go out to a concert. I don't get to go out and eat meals at a restaurant. And I don't get to, like the social aspect of it there. We have all modern conveniences to kind of do this, right? Read a book, take your memory off into that one. If you get bored, if you've watched all the shows on television and such, and do a creative project, etc. Just maintain the love, maintain the balance there, and keep the perspective. Have a deep breath and go, is it really that bad? We're in a pandemic. We're not in a war. People aren't blowing up our houses and bombing us. And I don't know. I'm just more keep a bigger, longer view perspective on it. This too shall pass, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I'm at, you know. Stay
It'll
the
pass.
course, this too must pass.
It'll pass, and live music will come back.
And it will come back in some form, and creativity will always be there, and people will make music. And I did read a cool book called The Death of the Artistic Class, which is talked about how this stuff has kind of happened over the last 20 years, where the devaluing of people who make a living doing art, and that these technologies that were supposed to free them up has actually been a death. You know, the content is worth zero, whereas the platforms make money. But you know, that's a whole nother conversation, so I won't go off on that tangent with you. So
That's super interesting. I'm gonna definitely check that out.
yeah, check that one out. You know, and he talks about, you know, he talks about media, he talks about film, he talks about copywriters, he talks about newspapers, he talks about music, he talks about labels, he talks about how we get music and how we get culture. We used to go down and you'd go to the club or you'd go to that record store and that guy would go, hey, you into that? Check this out, right? Whereas now it's like you pull up Spotify or something, like, based on what you like, here's a regurgitation of what you must also like, you know, or something else that's being paid and pushed forward to you. How do you find there? You know, we have, it's like the phone book. We don't phone every number in it. How do we know what number we're phoning, right? Like that's what's going on with media as well, or I mean the web as well, is that how are we getting stuff pushed at us? You know, so there tends to be, there's so much out there, I don't know what I'm going to listen to. So that consequently, or everyone in his dog has a band, so you know they could get GarageBand and they're pushing up something there. What is, you know, the cream will rise to the top. Will it? Sometimes it doesn't always, right? Who's going to help you find these things in that? So it talks about those particular things. So again, I wandered from your original question and off the tangent for you. So you're welcome.
All connected. Okay, yeah. I'll let you go and let you enjoy the rest of your day. It was a pleasure again chatting with you, Jim. And,